servers. Besides this one, he was in the political debate and Destiny.
Yeah, and for me it says unable to load profile banner, badges, or about me. I don't know if he like ditched his account or.
That's okay. I don't even know how to respond to that. Hey Maul, you up?
Yeah, it looks like it say his profile is offline.
It's not just offline. It's this is what happens if you delete the account. But I guess it not delete account, but like I guess disable it.
Or he blocked us or something.
Yeah, I'm looking at the profile that says visible to me. It just looks like he's offline.
Okay, it might just be offline. Mal, I wanted to ask just to kind of have a quick understanding of your worldview. Like, are you like a progressive or what's up?
Well, I gotta understand, what do you mean by progressive?
USA progressive, like socialist, uh, higher taxation, vaccines, pro-choice, pro-trans, stuff like that.
It sounds like much of that I wouldn't argue for.
Okay. No, I was just trying to understand like a general perspective, so maybe we could like argue, because we might both agree that taxation is not theft, but we might agree for different reasons. So just to not speak past each other.
Well, I say that taxation is not theft simply because you are consenting or agreeing when taxes are paid through the taxation system.
Right, but the person would just respond by saying that they never agreed to paying taxes.
That's not possible. That's how the taxation system works. It only works by you making an arrangement with the government that's there in your state or region.
All right. So what? So I take it this isn't going to occur.
I don't know. I guess we'll see if Numinous gets back online in a couple of minutes. But if he's not back by 9:30, 9:35, I guess it's not happening. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no worries. I will see. I will pull the audit logs and see if he did anything.
Well, we certainly tried. Shell Shock, did you ask around in the chats that who might agree that taxation is theft?
I did, but unfortunately, nobody was interested. There were way more people that thought taxation is not theft than people that did.
All right, folks, looks like we're not going to have that taxation debate. The one person I debated before on this subject that continued to overtalk and drown out my side of the discussion wasn't available. And this other person's having technical difficulties. Folks, indeed, this discussion and debates brought to you by Discord. Yes, this individual by the name of Numinous that was scheduled for this debate on taxation apparently has departed from the Discord server. The person was just here in the chat, and now it looks like the profile doesn't even exist. So that was mighty fast. That was a mighty fast conceding. It was one.
Who is interested in debating that taxation is theft, please let me know. Otherwise, if we don't find anyone to pick up the spot that has been left open, we will have to conclude this at approximately 1:40 if we do not begin the debate by then.
It's 1:30 a.m. or p.m. for you?
It is 1:35 p.m. for me.
Gotcha.
So in 5 minutes. If anyone is interested in debating that taxation is theft, we have had somebody drop out and we need a replacement. So if you are interested in debating that taxation is theft, please let me know.
All right, folks, we got a 5 minute countdown, 4 minute countdown. Looks like that this challenge will be yielded. And looks like a person by the name of Shell Shock that will debate alongside myself. Looks like we'll have the proposition given up to us. Again, we're at a 4 minute countdown. No one has accepted the challenge. It looks like everyone agrees that taxation is not theft. I repeat, taxation is not theft.
I think we're just gonna have to end it, Wrench. I don't think anyone is gonna take up the mantle.
Alrighty, sounds good. Obviously, you two are more than willing to reschedule and find somebody else who is willing to take the position, and I'm more than interested in still hosting it. So just keep your board updated. We won't delete that until we hear something more or it goes inactive for 14 days. So.
All right, thank you.
Sorry for wasting time, but yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, indeed.
Do we leave? I guess.
All right, folks, so there you have it. That was a no show. They called it. The opposing sides were a no show. No one stepped forth the challenge to take on the topic of is taxation theft. So I take that as everybody's in agreement. The other individual by the name of Shell Shock said that he asked around in the different chat rooms, and it looks like mostly everyone was in agreement that it is not theft. And it is not theft. And the rebuttal or objection that people do not consent is not factual, because the only way taxation is a government system, is a government employment. When you pay taxes, you are hiring government people to service and to maintain your municipality, your locality, your state, your region, your province, and at most your nation or country. So this is a public service agreement that occurs through one way of employment, another way through residing in a certain location. It costs funds, it costs money. As I was in a debate with the other individual, thought back, I said everything around you pertaining to the roads, the land, all the government services and emergency services, all at a cost. So this is the setup that you are in and that you would have to pay for. And when you are in employment, you are given a setup to make an arrangement. And you fill out paperwork, you fill out forms either by hand or electronically, and you're giving consent to the amounts that you are opting to pay for the services that you receive roundabout daily. People that disagree. All right, folks, we might have a person coming on now to take on the position that taxation is theft. Okay, looks like we have it.
Alrighty, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
PZH, you got a teammate you can invite?
Considering you just asked me to join, I'm not sure I do.
No, I'm just saying maybe somebody else also could join in because this will kind of be a 2v1. It was supposed to be a 2v2, but both
Yeah.
tax.
I don't really know. I have to look.
If you we can give you a couple minutes, maybe like 2-3 minutes to kind of look for one if you can find one for sure.
And I guess in the meantime, we will just kind of go over just structure and expectations. Um, so, general structure is what were you thinking, Shell Shock? We can kind of do the standard introduction, rebuttal, introductions from both sides, rebuttals from both sides, main arguments, and rebuttals. And then we can do, if you're interested, we can do some Q&A if there's any from the audience, depending on how big of an audience we have. And then we can do closing statements.
Yeah, I want to keep it a little bit more simpler than that. Just opening statement, main conversation, Q&A, closing statement. Very, very straightforward.
Sounds good. And I guess, just general across the board, it's, fairly, we're fairly casual. Let's obviously, try and avoid as many ad homs as physically possible. Let's try and not over jump on top of on top of one another. If I notice some of that occurring, I will kind of call it out. So yeah, just try and keep it, clean and nice. Give everyone an opportunity to talk and speak. What I will do now is I'll officially open the stage. So I will essentially ping everyone and let them know that the debate is going to be happening. And then once everyone is ready, we will kind of go from there.
Okay, more again with the weighting. So, as I was saying, just because you disagree with funds being taken from you or out of your account or from your wages or from your payment or income doesn't make taxation theft at all. Okay, so right now we're some more people are coming into the audience.
To modern day debates. Today we have is taxation theft? We have Shell Shock and Maul taking the negative that taxation is not theft, with PZH taking the positive that taxation is theft. We will be doing a standard debate format with opening statements, main arguments, Q&A, and closing. You'll see in the side chat on the challenge stage, there is a way to add questions for either side. There is also a prompt there to let you know how to add the questions for either side. If anyone at this point is interested in getting in on this debate, please let me know. We will give the participants a couple of minutes to prepare themselves, and then we will start with the debate. Again, if anyone is interested in being PZH's teammate in taking the positive that taxation is theft, please let us know in the side chat. We will begin momentarily. Thank you very much. PZH, can you unblock Tyler the Great?
I have blocked him, but what, he wants to participate?
Is theft and would like to debate it further, please let us know in the side chat. We would be more than willing to have you. Are you guys ready to begin?
Who is
Yes.
starting?
So that is me, Wrench. I am going to be the debate moderator for today.
Who is going to begin the first talk?
I guess I'll start. I'll be quick. Um, so, from my perspective, I think taxation is not theft because when we exist in a society at large, I think there's just rules of set regulations that we have to follow. We don't sign a contract that says you're not allowed to kill somebody, you're not allowed to steal from somebody, right? We just those are regulations forced upon us that we have to follow. One of those regulations is taxes, and the reason we do this is because it leads to the overall positive result on a successful society. One
Jamal, do you have anything to add in support of the opening statement?
Yes, taxation, I say, is not theft. Basically, because it's you agree or you consent to paying taxes. The taxation system is not theft. It's not funds that are coming out of your wages or of your income or of your pay when you are employed. It's all under consent. It's all under agreement, so it cannot be theft because of that. That's pretty just short and sweet. When you have a when you're paying for anything that what they call like a sales tax and add it on to whatever you're purchasing, that there's another agreement of consent that you are involving yourself in when it comes to taxation. It's just like with what Shell Shock said that we are in a system that's set up for from the taxation system, which is from the government that services the locality, the municipality, the region, the province, the country, the nation, everything around you, pretty much from your the roads and your medical emergency services, etc. like that. That's all at a cost. So that is the setup of the taxation system. This is not something that you don't know about and was unauthorized taken from your funds or your account. I've experienced situations where I've had unauthorized charges on my account because I didn't agree to those charges. They were unrecognized charges from a particular retailer, and that had to get investigated, and I was reimbursed. I was reimbursed because it was unauthorized. It was fraudulent. Now, people may say that taxation is theft because maybe they disagree with the amount, they disagree with what they're paying for, and all like that, but that doesn't make it theft. I'll stand right there. You can go ahead, PZH.
Awesome. PZH,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay. I just want to preface that I've been asked to join this debate 7 minutes ago. So, FYI. Um, I will just say that taxation is coercion. When someone takes taxes from me, they're initiating force on me, which is immoral. It's immoral for an individual to do on me. It's immoral for the state to do to me. Uh, Taxation is not voluntary. I did not consent to it. If you can get into a situation where you say, well, the state offers me a certain set of services and it benefits me, and I agree that I would like to have these sets of services, and I agree to pay for them, then taxation would, and then this form of payment would not be theft. But if, for example, I'm forced to pay for these other sets of things that I do not want, then is that is coercion. Let me just take a quick look here. Apart from that, the things we mentioned was society. I think it's helpful if we imagine that for the sake of argument, I'm an immigrant that just joined this society, and I'd like the other side to tell me what obligations I have to this society and what I have automatically consented in parentheses just by walking into the society. I think that would be helpful. And with that, we can start the debate.
Alrighty, thank you both sides. We will now get into the discussion phase of our debate. Um, so we will now, I guess we will open it up to the negative side that taxation is not theft. As previously indicated, please do not overstep one another. This is meant to be good conversational banter on the topic. I will open it up to the negative side. Shell Shocker Mall to begin.
So, in answer to the question that PZH just asked, what obligation I believe the immigrant has in going into another region or country to pay taxes, one obligation is if the immigrant presumably is legal, is going to live and dwell in that new land where that immigrant is living, is at a cost to that immigrant. And the immigrant is consenting or agreeing to this, particularly we have to presume the immigrant is going to take employment someplace and not going to arrange that employment under the table. So that's one example where that the immigrant falls under that contractual agreement. Shell shot, you can answer next.
I well, isn't PCH allowed to respond to that first, or is this
Yep, nope. PZH is allowed a response.
yeah?
Yeah. So if I'm an immigrant and I come to a new society. I mean, if I get employed by someone, that I have an agreement with that person, I don't see why taking money away from my agreement with that other person is not a form of theft. Also, if I use some things in society, this new society, let's say I rent an apartment, that's something I paid for. If I rent a car, that's something I pay for. So the things that I'm using, I'm paying for. Why would I need to add taxes to that and then say that I automatically consented to those taxes just by me being new in this place?
Well, you already could, if you're going to take employment, according to my experience, I'm not sure what your experience is, but when you take employment and you arrange this that's not under the table, that's one of the very things that you set up an agreement with. So once you do that, that is your consent right there on the table. Whether it's done through paperwork or electronically, that is your arrangement that you're setting up with the taxation system.
And well, I consented to the employer. I didn't consent to the taxation. The taxation is taken from me by force.
Okay, that's false.
Uh, did I consent to the? Did someone ask me for my consent for the taxes?
Yes.
Who?
When you take employment, they give you they give you the specific forms that help that ask for that specific information in regards to taxation. So when you're filling out that form, it's just like signing a contract on what you did, like when you mentioned about your apartment or your car. That's the same instance that's going on there in employment, unless you and the boss are trying to get around that and go under the table. But then if you did that,
Okay, so
then the
I'll
government
just
couldn't
speed
get
it up.
your government couldn't get their hands on your money, which you would actually be
I'll just
committing theft against them.
I'll just speed it up and say I didn't consent to paying taxes. I consented to the job. I consented to the amount agreed with the employer, and I consented to do the work for the employer for that amount of money. But I didn't consent to those taxes.
Can I interrupt a little bit here, Paul?
Sure.
Yeah, Shelsha, you can answer his original question. That's why I was putting it back to you.
PCH, you said that taxation is coercion, right? A lack of consent.
Yes.
Okay, so my argument here is that if I kill somebody and I go to prison, should I go to prison?
If you initiated force on someone else, yes.
Okay, so why though? I didn't consent to going to prison.
You initiated force. You violated someone else's rights.
So just because I violated someone else's rights, does that mean I deserve to go to prison? I didn't consent to go.
You deserve to. You des. You des. So you're asked. So okay. So let me just see how deep you want to go. This. So when you say that, are we talking about morality? And after morality, are we talking about the source of rights, or should I just should I just give like a short? Should I just give like a short? So I can do that, but should I just give a short answer and say, I'm saying that you can't initiate force on individuals. Not individuals can't initiate force on individuals, and governments can't initiate force on individuals. If you initiate force on someone and kill them, then you forfeit your own rights and you can be taken away.
Okay, because of an action or an effect taken, you can be coerced, and your lack of consent can be removed in certain situations, right?
In the situation I specified, though.
Yeah. In the situation you specified. So like, my response to that would be that I think that existing in a society is the consent given.
I disagree.
Do you think that you should be allowed to litter everywhere?
If I litter on someone's private property, they could.
Governmental property.
Let's say private property, because it's just simpler. If I litter on someone's private property, if I dump waste on my neighbor's yard, they can sue me for damages. And the government so I initiated force on my neighbor's property. And my neighbor can go to court and say, hey, this person caused me damages and he needs to pay for it. And the government, as a retaliatory force, can tell me you need to pay by force because you initiate force to your neighbor.
What do you mean when you say initiate force? I feel like that's a little vague. Can you expand on that?
Initiate is when I initiate, well, it's like start or initiate, to start using force on you against your consent. And retaliatory force is after someone initiates, either myself or the government as my agent comes in and say, as a result of you initiating force, we are now going to correct the situation to the best of our abilities through retaliatory force. So we are retaliating against the initiation of your force.
Okay, so let's say that I parked my car on like a steep hill or something, right? And I could hit the brake to stop my car. If I don't do anything, let's say I'm sitting in my car, I parked on top of a steep hill, right? And now my car is slowly rolling down and catching speed. If I don't do anything, I'll hit somebody and kill them. Is that a force? Have I initiated force?
I mean, I would say so. You're responsible for your car. You're responsible for you're responsible for it and yourself not hitting other people. If there are circumstances where you can claim like the argument you're making or similar arguments where, look, I injured someone else, but I didn't do it on purpose, or I didn't mean to initiate force, then certainly go to court and the judge will decide who did what. But other than that, I'm not sure how to answer you.
You got it right. Like, I'm responsible for the vehicle. I'm responsible for the car. Like, even if you don't intend to commit a crime, negligence is still a criminal activity. Negligence, homicide, negligence, harm, right?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, again, you'll have to. If you could have taken an action that prevented someone else from having harm. So let's say I own a car, and I'll take your example, and the car is like parked downhill, but then my car rolled off my hill and hit my neighbor. I'm still responsible, even if I wasn't in the car. I'm still responsible for the car. So, I mean, I should have made sure that that didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So my argument is that you have a responsibility to pay taxes.
I don't have any responsibilities.
I'm explaining.
I don't have any responsibilities I didn't consent to.
Yeah. I'm explaining, right? Like, I didn't consent to the car rolling down the hill, but I'm still responsible for the car, right?
You own the car. the car is your property.
Right. That, okay. Is my child my property?
Yes, in a way.
Okay. Fuck, I thought I could get you with that one. But my point being is that we have certain responsibilities towards ourselves and our properties, right? One of the ways, so like for example, when I drive to work, there is a thing called a road. How was that built?
Some people built it.
The government did.
No, the government paid some people to build it.
Through what money?
Well, it depends. It could be privately built, could be government built, could be council built.
Let's say it
Could be
was
whole ways of funding
built.
it. Sorry?
Yeah, let's say it was governmentally built, not privately
Okay.
built. Let's say it was governmentally built.
Okay.
With what money was it built by?
I assume people's money, other people's money.
Exactly, right? One
Yeah.
person would not be able to um, build a road by himself, but many other people combined worth would be able to do so.
Okay, hold on.
The argument I'm making.
Just pause for a second. Are you making an argument that people are unable to do things together without the government?
I'm saying the government can increase the value that a group can do.
I'm just saying that I'm just asking. Sorry, are you saying people cannot come together and achieve a project? That requires more than one person without the government. Is that your argument?
No, that's not my argument.
Because a bunch of people can get together in a town and make a road.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Without the government.
I was simply using like a small form example. So there are.
Okay, I mean, look, if the people want build a road, the people or the government or whoever want the road, and let's say I want to use the road, then and I'm new to the society. I just came in. Then they can put a toll in, and I'll pay for the toll, use the road, and exit when the toll ends. That's fine. I consent to that.
Yeah, that's the same thing with taxes. That's the same thing. Toll, that's all through the taxation system.
Right, but I used that road that one time, and I consent to doing that. But taxes are a wide variety of things that I didn't consent to.
There's a wide variety of things that are at your disposal that you are using. You're using roads all
Now,
over.
again, I made the argument at the start that there are certain government services that I would be happy to pay for. If you give me a list, like let's say like Netflix, and I say I want to subscribe to this service, I want to subscribe to that service that's beneficial to me. I don't mind paying $20 a month for that, $100 a month for that other thing. Then that would be voluntary, and I would agree to that.
Yeah, when you call on emergency medical services and everything
I can
therein,
pay for that too.
right,
I
that's
can
through the
agree to
taxes. That's through the taxes.
I can agree to those things as well.
So
Again,
that's what you're agreeing to when
you
you do through
can
the taxation system.
make the argument, and sorry, I've already agreed to that. If you give me the option of voluntarily choosing what to pay for, then that is not theft.
It doesn't work that way. It's not a pay as you go. It's more of a maintenance, continuous type of pay structure. You just give your funds to the government, and then they pay out the people that do the roads, that pay the authorities, the police, the medical services, and everything else, the public schools, that people that help fabric into the network of society.
They could also take my money, give it to people abroad, steal it for themselves, do things like kill a bunch of indigenous people in another country that I don't agree with. And I don't want them to use that money for those purposes. Therefore, I don't consent to them using those things. And if I had the option of choosing what I consent to and what I don't, that will be voluntary. That will be fine.
So back on to the subject of employment. Do you not see that when you take up employment and they give you those forms to fill out to process for those tax amounts and you fill that out, you don't think that you're consenting at that point?
I think you know yourself that no one's consent is required. You have to do it.
So you're saying you're not consenting at that point when you fill those forms out? Is that a yes or no?
No one is consenting it. No one's asked to consent or not consent. It's taken from you if you want to or not. And if you somehow find a way to not pay for it, then someone will come to your door and put you in prison.
When you fill out those forms, you're consenting to it.
I answered your question.
And
No, I don't think so.
you're consenting to it when you fill out those forms.
Again, no one is asked to consent or to not consent. I'm not sure which forms specifically you mean, but let's say when I sign a contract with an employer, and and on it says this is how much taxes I'll have to pay. That's not necessarily, that's something you're forced to do if you want to or not. And if you somehow, let's say for argument's sake that I take all the money from the employer and then later I'm supposed to myself pay for those taxes, and then I choose not to pay for, I choose to keep those taxes instead of paying for them, someone will come to my home and arrest me and take me to prison. So
Well,
no one's
yes.
asked to do it,
Well,
they're forced
yes.
to do it.
They take you to prison because that's the penalty for theft. Because if you're not going to pay taxes, you are stealing from the government that's doing all these services around you in your society. So all these things that we're talking about are at a cost. So if you don't pay, yes, they will give you that penalty.
Again, I already agreed that if you let me voluntarily choose what services I want from the government,
That's not the
and I
way it
consent, then
works. That's
that's
the
fine.
problem. That's not the way
Okay,
it
then
works. You want to pay as you
then I
go. That's
don't
not the way it works.
I don't consent to pork spending. I don't consent to corrupt politicians bribing one another. I don't consent to the army killing indigenous people in another country. I don't consent to those things with my tax money. And that's how it should work, because then at least we'll have some control as to what the government does with our money. So if you're saying, we need the police, this is how much the police cost, I'm like, look, I like my property, I don't want it to be stolen. Yeah, I'll pay for the police. How much is it? It's $100 a month. Fine, subscribe me to that. You want fire services? Yeah, okay, I want fire services. You want health and, in case of emergency? Yeah, that sounds good, I'll add that too. But some stuff I won't like.
Yeah,
Some stuff I know is corrupt, and I don't agree to pay for that.
yeah, you want to pay as you go service, and that's not the system you're born into. The system,
It's still a pay as you go service, because if I leave the country, I stop paying for it.
the system that you're set up in is a constant, ongoing system that constantly maintains your roads, maintains everything that you use or is available to you. So instead of just pay as you go and trying to just allocate and segment every little thing in this little pocket, you just from your wages and from if you buy anything and anything else, property taxes, the land that you're living on, it goes to the government and then they pay the services that will render back to you. It would be theft if the government would if you're overextended and you pay too much and they don't refund you, that would be theft for the government. That's why they have the refund and the rebate.
I guess PZH and Shell Shock, I will let you guys rebuttal, and then after the rebuttal, we will move to Q&A.
PZH, um, from my understanding, you are probably okay with some sort of taxation system, provided that the money that you are being taxed directly goes to stuff that you have utilized, correct? Or am I getting that right? Can people hear me?
Yes, yeah.
PZH, are you there?
Might have gone to the bathroom real quick.
Yeah, sorry. With regards to what Maul said, it's not with regards to the pay as you go. It's not like I'm fine to say, as long as I'm in the society, these are the services I agree to pay. It's still a form of pay as I go, in the sense that if I leave that society, I stop paying taxes, and some other people will maintain it. So it's pay as I go as long as I'm inside that society, and I'm using those services.
PZH, from my understanding, wait, hang on. Do you very quick? Do you support welfare systems?
Government welfare systems, no, I find them extremely manipulative.
Okay. Okay. Excluding welfare. Okay. So from the conversation that we've had, I think that I would probably, excluding welfare system, I think I could maybe agree with you. But the problem I have is that your view is like very, very um, idealistic, essentially.
I prefer
The
principle.
thing is, we can't. No, no, no. That I'm not saying you're not principled. What I mean is that like it's not really possible to have your viewpoint because there are little things that you're constantly taking from society that you don't really understand. If I am taxed $100, yes, a chunk of that, maybe even most of it, will go to something that I don't necessarily personally support, like a library, for example. Right? I'm never going to go to this library on the other side of the country that my tax dollars have paid.
Look,
Which
look,
yeah.
I can say, look, if I say I agree to fund the police, it could be the case that the police do something that I'm unhappy with, or don't support, right? I can appreciate that I still need the police to, protect myself and my property, and it could even be the case that I pay for the police, but I never use them, right? Like I pay for them, and I never get mugged, and I never have an incident where I need to use them, but I still pay for them anyway. That kind of thing is still fine, because I'm like, in the event of, then I need them, then they're there. Um, but like certain things, like you cannot make the case that the the taxes are fully efficient, fully no one's abusing it, and like 80% of it doesn't go to like administrators and bureaucrats. It's not the case that that is what happens. So again, I would agree to pay for like a minimal government, or government with a minimal role, let's say. Even if let's say that role requires more money or something, that's still okay, but the role is very defined and limited. Um, but it has to be consensual, and you can't. I don't see how you can make the argument that it is consensual unless you say that society overrides my consent.
I mean, from my perspective, I think society is allowed to override your consent from time to time. An example would be a vaccine mandate, which is something I support. But even putting that aside, I don't. The thing that's confusing me, excluding governmental welfare systems, it seems like you do sort of agree with the taxation system. Like you just said, you gave an example of a police, of you never knowing, you never needing police, but still being okay to pay for it. Why would you be okay with paying for something like that? Something that you'll never use.
Well, I don't know if I'll never lose it. But it's the same way as saying I agree to pay for police insurance. Like I need the police to be there in case I need them. That's the insurance for it.
What about just instances like the military? And since war is
Yeah.
apparently World War III is going to happen tomorrow, yesterday, every day of these past few weeks, right?
I think that it's a good idea to have. Well, yeah. I would pay for the army in the sense that it protects my. So let's look at this way. Let's say police protects my rights or my property within society, and the army protects my rights and property from stuff coming from outside of society into it.
Okay,
And
give
I
me an
would
example. Yeah.
and I would say, just as a side point, that the stronger the military you have, the less likely people are going to mess with you.
Okay. example of something that your taxation money is going to that you are unhappy about?
Oh, I really don't need to provide. It's like a million. Like you can just open the television, you know, and the news, and you can say, I don't agree to this. I don't. There's just so many options there. Like just corruption or stuff like. I would say a lot of it corruption and stuff like paying administrators instead of paying the people who actually do things. Projects that go on for decades instead of something much smaller. You have pork spending, you have white elephants, so the variety of different things that I wouldn't agree to.
Okay. So long form projects that go nowhere. The exorbitant amount of salaries that lawmakers pay themselves.
Not lawmakers, bureaucrats or administrators.
Does that not include lawmakers?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, I'm learning new words today. Okay. Okay, bureaucrats and various other people like that, and governmental welfare systems. Wait, is a military not a government welfare system like a police force? That's not a welfare system to you?
No, it's a monopoly on force.
Is okay. We can. I guess that might be a different. That might be for a different conversation. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here is that just like you're okay with okay, let me put it this way. Would you rather live in a society where some of your taxation money is going to this corruption, but you still have a police force and a military and all this other stuff? Or would you live in a society that you're not taxed, but you don't have a police force, you don't have a military, you don't have roads, etc.?
I think would I rather is kind of like pointless because obviously I'm in a situation where I am paying taxes if I choose to or not. So like, would I rather be in a country where I pay fewer taxes and get better services? Sure. Would I rather not be in a country which is my current situation where I pay ridiculous amounts of taxes and get almost nothing? I don't exactly appreciate that kind of situation. But again, what can I ask you a question? Why would you be against my idea of giving me like a menu type option? And I say I agree to this, I agree to that, I don't agree to this, I do agree to that, and just let me voluntarily agree to what to pay and what not to pay taxes into.
First of all, there were the police force, the medical equipment, and the military would not be up for debate. You would be forced regardless of your personal belief, because who knows when you need to utilize them, even if you never utilize them.
Well, it's not exactly that's not exactly the problem. You don't have to force anyone. You just have to persuade them. And you don't even have to persuade everyone. You just have to persuade enough people to generate enough money. So why not just go with the direction of voluntary persuasion and appealing to people's reason?
I guess my issue with your argument essentially is that it feels too idealistic. I don't think we can make a society where everyone gets to pick and choose what welfare system they want when they want to. So, like, if like you say, yeah.
You're already in a society where you trust people to some degree. They vote every couple of years, so you already are trusting people in your society. And in fact, as it is one vote, one person, one vote, you're giving a lot of power to other people and trusting them to not abuse that power over yourself. The same power you have over yourself. You have one vote to decide what you want, and they have one vote to decide what they want, and they can influence what happens to you, or you can influence them to change something in society. So you already have a situation where you trust people to make the right choice. So why would they not make the right choice when it comes to this?
I don't think I said they wouldn't make the right choice. My issue with this is that it is too idealistic because a good chunk of our taxes also goes into technological advancements, right? So, for example, MRIs is well, I don't know if government specifically did this, but just to let's assume hypothetically, right? The government, for example, because of space technology, they ended up creating a device known as MRI, right? But MRIs were also really, really helpful in medical technology, right?
With regards to research and innovation, it's a topic. It's a debate in and of itself. But I would just say that first of all, 3/4 of all money that goes into R&D is from the private sector in any phase of society that you'd like. If you so with regards to raising large amounts of money for particular research, then that's already happening. More than like 3 times more than what the government is doing anyway. Um, and there is, if you look at it from a GDP point of view, any money that the government invests in basic research, it either has no effect on GDP or it has a negative effect on GDP. So again, this is a debate within a debate, but let's for argument's sake just say that even in your system of taxation, you could have a slot or have a bullet point on the list saying research and development, and you try to persuade people to put money into it. That still could, you still can do that as long as you just persuade them.
I will. Sorry, Shock. I'll allow you a rebuttal there, and then you and Muller rebuttal, and then we will get.
Could we actually? I actually need to go soon. Could we actually wrap it up soonish?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's. I guess we will move into the Q&A here, and then we will do our closing statements. For our audience members, you too can submit questions for the Q&A. If you look in the side chat, we have attached methods of dumping questions into our area. If you would like to ask a question, now is your opportunity.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, PZ, that I think our fundamental principle is too different.
All right, for PZH, I have, how should the government pay for emergency services that anyone can get, a citizen or not?
Sorry, the citizen part I don't understand.
Yeah, so it just asks, how should the government pay for emergency services that anyone can get, basically, essentially, regardless of if they are a citizen?
So I would basically say that I would argue that the government should have the monopoly on force, and it should offer services like police, army, court system, prison system. How should you pay for that? There are ways to do it, but ultimately it has to be voluntary. You have to persuade people that this is in their best interest, and that they should pay for those things. Other than that, there were some perhaps less conventional things like which I'm just throwing in there, like a raffle, or I had a particular idea about a sovereign wealth fund where people pay into that, and that invests in the economy, and the dividends from that goes to pay for those emergency services. But basically, persuasion or some other mechanized way of having a system that keeps making money that then funds the police and donations. Sorry, and donations.
Awesome. I will allow Shell Shocker Mall a 2-minute rebuttal if you guys have any follow-up to ask him.
I don't think I have anything much to add. Just a quick question, PZ. If somebody says, no, I don't want to invest in medical services from from my taxation, you would let that person bleed to death?
I think so. Let's take the example of the police, but police just apply it for everyone, and if someone doesn't want to pay for the police, they will still gain the benefits of the police as long as we have enough people paying for them. Is that a free rider problem? Yes, it is.
That sounds like force, but in the reverse direction. Now the individual is gaining benefits of a system without investing anything in it. He's stealing from the government now.
So a free rider problem.
Free ride problem. I've never heard
free
of that.
rider a free rider problem. He's free riding on other people's payment.
Gotcha. I'll look into this. This is a long Wikipedia page.
Okay.
All right.
And I agree that there is that problem, and to some degree, if you're getting a service and not paying for that, then you are potentially infringing on the rights of the police people who are offering you that service. But again, as long as it's they have enough money to function, so the society can function, then that's what is the requirement. Because right now you have a situation where people don't earn enough money to pay taxes, or they don't earn any money at all, and they still get to gain the benefit of the police.
Very well. For PZH, I do have another question.
Okay.
Do you get to choose what Netflix does when you pay each month for using it? Or do you get to choose each movie? I believe this is in regards to when you had mentioned before about talking about Netflix essentially kind of through a taxes system.
You have some choice, and then you don't have some choice, like you just what they are able to offer you.
I see. Maul, do you have any rebuttal on that or any further questions for PZH?
No, we can move on.
Alrighty. I will also, this will be my last call for any of our audience members. You are able to submit questions in the side chat if you have any questions for either side. Now is a great opportunity to put them in there.
So guys, did I do okay considering I was brought on short notice?
So,
yeah, you did better.
Sorry. So I guess we'll go ahead now, and Shell Shock and Maul, if you guys can please give your closing arguments.
All right, I'll conclude with this. I say, once you, as I said before, on the matter of employment, because that is an example that I started out with, that when you process that paperwork for taxation, at that instance, that is your agreement or consent. Now, if you do not process that paperwork, then that is what they call tax evasion. Or if you are going under the table or being paid under the table, that's tax evasion. And that is what you will be considered as a theft against the government that is giving you services and where you reside and where you dwell, because they have what they call like a percentage based on your area or based on where you are. So these services are being uh, implemented into the society where you are, where all of these services, like it was mentioned by PZH about taxes you're paying for, the funds that you're giving is for police insurance. Because in a situation like definitely like an emergency, you kind of want action without no delay. So you don't want to have to bring out your wallet to pay for a police service. So there is countless services like that all around us that ensures that service continues and runs, like even like the medical services, Medicare or Social Security. So all of those things like that, that if you don't want to pay for, you would be stealing, or you would be trying to use these services for free. So this is the arrangement that we have. I'll conclude there.
Shell Shock, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think there was a more fundamental disagreement between me and PCH. I wish I want to thank PCH. You know, he just showed up to the debate, thankfully, and we did have one. I didn't. It kind of sucks. I think we were all trying to be a little bit backed up because of the reasons around the debate. I think we had a bigger functional difference, which we kind of got into, but more or less, yeah, I basically agree with Maul, more or less, yeah.
Alrighty, and PZH, any closing remarks before we end this off?
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me. I would just say, I would just like people to consider that a system where you ask people what it is that they want, and again, I appreciate that you could make the argument there's some bare minimum that has to be the state, and I would say, force would be one of those bare minimums. But at the very least, if you ask people what they want, or you give them the ability to choose what they want, if the government is not behaving very well, then the people then have, through their own monetary means, have some way of reining the government in and saying we're not happy. And in addition, you also open up perhaps some avenues to, if the government is inefficient, then you can open competing services that are more efficient. But in any case, I feel that the more choice you give people in this regard, the better the system will be in terms of efficiency of your tax dollars, and what the people receive for those dollars. That's it.
Alrighty. Thank you very much for joining us today, guys. Thank you very much for our debaters and getting this fired. If anyone in the audience ever wants to host a debate, the place to do it and get it figured out is the Challenge Board stage debates. If you have something you are interested in putting on broadcast for everyone else to come in and engaging in a structured debate, that is the place to set it up. As always, thank you everyone for coming out and joining us today. Thank you for the questions from the audience. And everyone have a great day. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, so the that was the debate between myself, Shell Shock, and PZH, which I've debated before on slavery. And PZH was a last minute participant. The individual numinous was not available or departed off of the Discord server. Okay, so that debate is taxation theft. And basically, between PZH and Shell Shock, Shell Shock had different arguments. So there were many things that Shell Shock was cross examining with PZH. And from my standpoint, the foundation from where I was coming from, PZH couldn't even understand or recognize is that when you go to employment and fill out the paperwork, some of that paperwork involves your agreement with the taxation system. I believe PZH said that they take the taxes out whether you fill out the forms or not. I don't know where he's getting that information. That's not my experience. You fill out that paperwork, you sign off, you do whatever. That is your agreement. You select the amounts, or you may not select any amount. Once that paperwork is signed off, that is your agreement. That's telling the taxation system okay, this is where I'm employed, this is my proof of income, this is where you have access, because the government is directly, automatically, as you speak, providing services for you. You're not paying for medical emergency services. You're not paying directly for the roads as a pay as you go, as PGH was trying to point across. It's all being currently maintained and is all in operation as we speak. The societies that we're in, everything is interconnected where all of these services are going on at once. So at this point, the way the system is set up, your funds come out of your income and just go to the government services and they take care of the rest of it. So if you do not fill out that paperwork, if you decline and don't fill out that paperwork, then you're saying, okay, I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to pay for the services that you use. PGH mentioned about paying as you go pretty much. Why can't I just select what I want to use and pay for? And this was a question, I guess, that slipped my mind at the time. What is around you that you use or that is a service that is granted to you that you will not pay for? But the bottom line is when you explain what taxes are for, and this debate went better than that other person I was in a debate with. But once you understand what taxes are for and what the taxation system is for, you realize everything around you you use, from the roads through the when you have unemployment services, unemployment compensation, you're paying into that. I did mention about Social Security. I guess that can classify under that. And any other type of subsidy payment or financial assistance grants, that's all through the funding that you give the government. See, everything is set up through the taxation system to where those services are there in place readily as you need them, and they're constantly being maintained because they have to be maintained and implemented, like the roads. Like, you may not drive down certain roads and say, well, I don't drive down those roads, why should I pay for them? But those roads have to be maintained as well. And it's not just paying for them as you use them, but you pay for them in the collective or the cumulative sense. Because if you use the roads in the past or maybe use them in the future, everything, that road is connected to this road, to that road, to this service and that service in this region, to where it's all interconnected. Everything that's interconnected is just a cumulative payment from the citizens that dwell in that land that is give to the government. Like an example of the police, you could say, well, I haven't called the emergency service yet, and I haven't needed the service. Well, it's not just paying for the action or response of the service, but also maintaining that service. So, in maintaining that service, because the police or the emergency services or the authorities are in operation, you may not necessarily need those services to come to your aid, but because those services are in place, perhaps doing other things, assisting other people or assisting other areas that need help, eliminating their problems, that is in a cumulative way, preventing those other areas that had problems to reach your area. and to spread. So your area is even maintained and serviced indirectly, and in this case, through if it's through police, it's through in a safe impact. And then those services, such as the funding for the equipment or the things or the materials or the products that those services use, that's also being maintained. So it just helps people to understand that you have to look at this as a complete societal woven interconnected system. So you can't apply it to as a pay as you go type of arrangement. When you think of government and paying for government which you employ, it's a societal service. It's not an individual service. We all pay into the societal service for society, not an individual service, as I believe that some people just don't agree with. But you not agreeing with it doesn't make it not consent. So there goes the show, and it was almost a no-show, but we had an individual to come on. So it was supposed to be a two versus two, but I believe the other two individuals had a little bit more to draw out, a little bit more to discord with. Basically, what I had to say really was pretty much exhausted. We was pretty much gonna probably go in circles if I would have continued on. If you don't understand the societal function of the taxation system, you may not get it. And if you don't even get how when you agree to fill out forms that is consent to the taxation system, you're just not going to get that. So that is the end of that story. And there you have it.